Hey guys, welcome to an exciting game of FIDE WorldCup 2019. This game was played in the quarterfinals between Liren and Alexander Grischuk. These two have played 2 games so far and they both have ended in a draw. Now this is the 3rd game that I'm showing you and let's see what happens. It's an exciting game where both white and black has a lot of chances, and let's see who prevails. Interesting fact about Liren is he's a Chinese GM with a FIDE rating of 2811, and from August 2017 to November 2018 he played 100 games and he was undefeated in those 100 games, which is the longest streak at that highest level across all the championships that he has played, being undefeated. So that's an amazing fact about Liren. Alexander Grischuk is a veteran player. He's a great player, played against all the opponents you can imagine, and he's a Russian GM with a FIDE rating of 2759. So with all this introduction, let's get into the game. C4 was played by Ding, and this is the English opening. It's also my favorite opening. We have E5 in response by Grischuk, and G3, now trying to fianchetto the bishop on this wonderful diagonal, which is going to be really useful. Knight to F6, bishop to G2 as planned, bishop to C5, D3, D5, now attacking this pawn. Now C takes D5, knight takes D5, and knight to C3, attacking this knight. This has all been played before. Knight to B6, retreating, and knight to F3. Now knight to C6, the other knight comes into the game, and we have castles by both sides, kingside castles, that is. A3, now stopping any of these 2 pawns coming into the B4 square, and A5. So if white as a counterplay wants to play B4 and push this wonderful bishop away, it has to go back to one of these 2 squares. Black doesn't really want to do that, so he has to play A5. Knight to A4, now hoping to exchange off one of the pieces, and black obliges. We have knight takes A4, queen takes A4, and now knight to D4, trying to get rid of another knight. And white says, sure, why not? Knight takes D4, bishop takes D4, and it's just move 12 and we have both the knights that are off the board. And now bishop to D2. An amazing move. A player like me would have never given up, would have never even thought of making such a move, mainly because I would have felt I'm letting down this piece, but it's not really that you're gambiting this pawn. And let's show you what happens if you capture it with the bishop. If bishop captures B2, then you get rook to B1, attacking. Look, and not just you're attacking the bishop here on B2, you're also indirectly attacking the pawn on B7. It's been defended once, but look at this wonderful bishop attacking the B7 square also. So once you move your bishop away, you get this bishop captures B7, light square bishop captures B7, and now rook captures B7. Look at this wonderful rook here. It's already move 16 and you have a wonderful rook on the 7th file. Next you're going to double up the rooks and you control this entire B file for the rest of the game, which is not really what black wants to do. So after bishop to D2, an amazing move, we have C6, preventing any of that, preventing white's attack. And now we have E3. This piece is still cannot be captured, mainly because if you try to capture it, all I have to do is attack with B1, and your bishop here on B2 will be trapped because this square is covered by the bishop and this square is covered by the pawn. So you have nowhere to go, which is why this pawn is not in threat. After E3, we have bishop to B6, now going back. Bishop to C3, trying to attack the center, and rook to E8, simply defending. Rook F to D1, and now bishop to D7. And there is a sneaky idea behind this bishop to d7 move, and Ding in his post-match interview said that this was kind of a slow move because as a GM you tend to see all of these lines that Grischuk was hoping for. So let's show you what the line is. If you try to go after this lone pawn here in the center, try to open up the center, and you play d4, you get e captures d4, bishop captures d4, hoping to exchange, but now this is what Grischuk had in mind. He will not capture, but instead he will play c5, and now look at this, you have an discovered attack on the queen, and you're finally losing your bishop. So once you move the queen back, the next move, black is going to pick up your bishop, your dark square bishop, and you will just drop a pawn for no reason at all. But Ding will obviously, he's such a great grandmaster, he is definitely going to see this, and after bishop to d7, he plays rook a to c1, simply defending everything. We have h6 and h3 now. We have rook to b8, just getting out of this wonderful diagonal, because in the future if these pawns are pushed further and the diagonal opens up, you don't want your rook here to be on a8 forever. So rook to d2, trying to double up the rooks, but now bishop to c7, just going back with the bishop. d4, attacking the pawn. We have c5 first, now opening up a discovered attack, and Ding has to bring his queen back to one of these three squares, and he brings it to c2. Now e takes d4, we have e takes d4, and now it's pushing c4, pushing the pawn even further. We have a4 now. You could even protect this pawn by pushing b5, but white wants to stop that plan, and that's why he immediately pushed a4. We have bishop to d6 and rook d to d1. Now that you cannot double up on the c file, there is no need for the rook to stay here on d2, so he said let's bring it back to d1. We have b6, just a simple plain perfect Grischuk move. He likes these slow waiting moves, and rook to e1, now trying to get rid of one of the rooks. Black obliges, rook captures e1 and rook captures e1. Now queen to c7, getting some attack going on, and there's some pressure going on this g file, g3 pawn, and we'll see what happens. We have h4. We have rook to e8, now trying to get rid of another pair, both the pairs of rooks. This is the second pair, and we have bishop to d8. White is not interested in capturing, and then you get bishop captures on e8. You don't really want to do that. And this is an interesting position where you have to decide what you want to do with the black. Do you really want to capture here, or do you want to play something else? And there is only one move that allows black to continue to draw this game. And if you guys have some time, pause the video and try to find the move. And the move is rook to d1. You just have to bring it back, and you have to protect all the pieces and wait for something for white to make a mistake, and if not, it's going to be a draw. But here Grischuk plays rook captures on e1 with check, and now we have bishop captures e1. This is where Ding gets a lot of advantage into the game. We have bishop to e6, now offering to get rid of a pair of a bishop. And white says, sure, that's exactly what I want to do. Bishop takes e6 and f takes e6 now. Queen to e4, a nice centralizing move. This queen is controlling all the right squares that it wants to, and you would always want to have your queen centralized during an endgame. This queen cannot be attacked by the dark square bishop because it's on the light square, and neither does black have any of the pawns on f file or the d file to attack this queen. So this was a wonderful move by Ding. King to f7, trying to get king into the game, and now bishop to c3, just defending everything, just waiting to see what black does. bishop to f8, and it's very important to keep an eye on this pawn here, because in some variations you could lose this pawn after you play something like d6, and then even if you captures, queen captures, you want to have, you want to let your king some breathing space. If not, your king has to constantly keep an eye on this pawn here, and this is a very important move even when there is a chance of checkmate. I'm going to show that to you later. We have d5 as planned and queen to d6. Now not capturing, but first getting the queen into the game. We have d captures e6 with check, queen captures e6, now offering a trade of queens, but Liren says, nope, that's not what I want to do because I have an advantage here and I want to keep it, so he declines it by queen to b7 check. We get king to g8, now king going back. Now you can imagine if this bishop was not here and say it was somewhere else, say it was on the c5 square, now you can imagine queen captures on g7 with checkmate because you have a nice support from your bishop here, which is why this move that Grischuk played was really, really important. And these grandmasters have a knack of finding these moves, 2 or 3 moves in advance and knowing, okay, what's going to happen in the future, and then that's why they go back and they defend a few pieces. An amazing move this. Now we have bishop to d4 going after this pawn, and queen to f5. Centralizing move is going to give some checks and try to get a perpetual if possible. We have king to h2, defending and not allowing queen to b2 to come with a check, and queen to c2 now. Nonetheless, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep some pressure on these 2 pawns and try to get some counterplay. You can even push c3 at some stage. You never know what's going to happen. So let's check it out. Queen to d5 check first, and king to h7. We have queen to f7, now going after the bishop, and queen to d3. Black queen does the same. So now if you guys have some time, again pause the video and put yourself in the shoes of white pieces or Ding's shoes, and if you have the white pieces, think what you want to do here. Do you want to capture the piece, the hanging piece on b6? Do you want to capture this bishop? What do you want to do? And if you want to capture this bishop, then that is exactly what Grischuk was hoping for, because that equalizes the game. But as white, you want to keep the advantage that you have, so you have to play the move bishop to c3. Now just defending your bishop, and this queen now has to move and defend the bishop over here. If, for example, if you want to move your bishop, say you move your bishop, then you get queen captures and it's all over. This is checkmate. Thankfully, GMs will see all of this, so this was bishop to c5 was not played in the game. But we'll show you what happens if queen captures f8. If that's what you thought, I want to get the bishops off the board. Then queen captures d4, and now queen to f5 check, king to g8, queen to e6 check, king to f8, queen to c8 check, king to e7, and it's a completely drawn game. There is no way for either sides to make any progress. And this is actually a loss for white, because white has an advantage, had an advantage in this position. I mean in this position. So after queen to d3, Liren just plays bishop to c3 and he keeps the advantage going. Now you have to go back with the queen either to d6 or to d8 to protect this piece here. So Grischuk goes back with the queen, queen to d6. And now we have queen captures c4. Finally you eliminate this pawn, and queen to g6. There is nothing you can do, you just have to wait and see what white does. Bishop to d4, and this was a killer move. You're finally going after these 2 pawns, and there is nothing black can do to protect them. because you're going to play queen to b5 and you have a double attack. There is nothing you can do. There is nothing Grischuk can do. So Grischuk in this position resigned, and Liren can moves on to semi-finals of the World Cup 2019. He will face, I think, he will face Yu Yangyi in the semi-final, and Yu Yangyi also played a wonderful game, and I might be able to show it to you, maybe, depending on how the time permits. We will see. But I am excited. And why did he resign? Because no matter what you try to do, let's say you go bishop to c5, trying to exchange off, you get bishop captures c5, b captures c5, and queen captures c5. You get queen to f6, now going after this pawn, but for now it's protected, and you cannot even capture this pawn, this a pawn here, because this pawn, f pawn, will fall and you get a check. So king to g1, first defending, and now you have queen captures on b2. That's okay. I mean, you get queen captures on a5. Now you have a wonderful pass pawn. In the next 5-6 moves, you're going to queen, and the king is too far away. Even if the king can try to reach it, king and a queen will not suffice, and white will definitely get a queen into the game. So we have queen to b1 check, you give a couple of checks, king to h2, and queen to b7. Now trying to keep an eye on these three squares, but it's of no use, because queen to c5 now defends this pawn and allows this pawn to be pushed. We have g5, is nothing black can do. H captures g5, h captures g5, and now a5, finally pushing the pawn. Queen to f3, again going after this pawn, but for now it's protected, so queen to d6. Now you have control over these two squares. Queen to d3. Also, when you play queen to d6, you don't allow the king to enter into the game. We play queen to b7 check, and after king to h6, we play king to h2. Oops. We play a6 and queen to f1. I mean, there is nothing you can do, even if you try to go after this pawn. I'm just going to queen up. There's nothing black can do in this position. Queen to b6 check. Now you give a check and defend your piece and defend this square. So after the king moves king to g7, you're going to push a7, and finally all you have to do is give another check with the queen and protect the square. You can queen up your pawn. This is too far away. The king is too far away. Queen to a1, now trying to defend it. There is no use of capturing here, because you just get queen captures and it's all over. Queen to b7, finally you give a check and you defend the square, and after the king moves, king to h6, doesn't matter where he moves, now you get another queen into the game. Queen captures a8, queen captures a8, and king to h5. So this is an interesting position in the game, and this is checkmate in 6 moves, but I want you guys to pause the video and try to find it, because that's how you will be trained to become a better player. And I'll give you a hint. This pawn here from g5 will queen on f1, but it won't matter. So there is the hint. And for those of you who found it, congratulations, you guys are amazing. Just keep improving just like this. And the move that you had to find for the rest of us was queen to g8. First you cut off the king from entering into the game, and once you play g4, which is the correct move, you play f3. Now the king can never enter any of these files. All he has to do is all you have to do is get your king up the board, and then the checkmate is inevitable. There are other ways, but this is an interesting one that I found, and that's why I decided to show it to you. G takes f3. Now you don't have to really go after this pawn, because like I said, you let it queen, and it's not going to be of any use. You play king to h3, you push the king up the board. He plays f2. Now you play g4 check. The only place the king can move to is to h6, so king does that, and now you play king to h4. You cut off all the possible squares that king can go to once you give a check, and it doesn't matter if you bring a queen or rook or anything into the game. Once you bring the queen, you're going to deliver the checkmate with a pawn. g5, and that's checkmate. It's all over for black. Even though he has a queen on the board, this would be humiliating. And Grischuk saw all of this after bishop to d4 was played, and he simply resigned the game. He is out of the tournament, and Liren moves on to semifinals. I am pretty excited to see how this plays out in the semifinals. There's a lot of things going on. So I hope you guys enjoyed this amazing video, this amazing game. I mean, one position can ruin your entire game. If you think back to the rook position where Grischuk decided to exchange the rook on e1, and that was the final blow, and Liren did not let the initiative go from there. So it was an amazing game, and I really enjoyed watching this. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. That's it from me. Namaste. See you next time.